Okay, we're going to start a Maamar today on Sukkos. And this Maamar is from the Alter Rebbe's Siddur. The Siddur of the Alter Rebbe is a collection, it's a Siddur, but it's a collection of Maamarim on the Siddur. They go through some of the Tfilos and many of the Yom Tovim. What's unique about the Siddur is that it's Maamarim of the Alter Rebbe that were written by the Mittel Rebbe. Unlike Likutei Torah and Torah which are the Maamarim of the Alter Rebbe written mainly by his brother, the Maharil, the Siddur is... Thank you. The Alter Rebbe's Maamarim as the Mittel Rebbe recorded them. And that's a totally different style. Because the Mittel Rebbe was famous for being very wordy and expansive in his explanations. The Maharil, the Alter Rebbe's brother, when he wrote the Maamarim, they were quite limited in words. The Mittel Rebbe's style is to explain broadly. And so it's the Alter Rebbe's ideas filtered through the Mittel Rebbe's words. And so the Maamarim are longer, but very well explained. Sometimes quite deep. And this one is a very fascinating one. It's in the section of the Siddur called Shar HaLulav, about the Lulav. And it describes the mitzvah of shaking the Lulav and the nanuim, the waving of the Lulav in the different directions. And why on earth do we do that? What are we trying to achieve? What is happening when we wave the Lulav in the 6 directions? This Maamar is going to explain it in depth. So let's take a look. At the bottom of 526, on the right there at the bottom. To understand the idea behind the Lulav and its species, the 4 species, and the waving of the Lulav in the 6 different directions. What is going on there? It's explained in a sefer called Mishnas Chasidim, one of the Kabbalistic works from after the Arizal. But Derech Kitzara, Teuchen Kavanas Nanuim de Lulav. It explains there in the Mishnas Chasidim, in very brief language, the inner meaning and the intentions, the mystical intentions of shaking the Lulav. And this is what it says. This is what it says in Mishnas Chasidim, the Kabbalistic intention of shaking the Lulav. The whole point of shaking the Lulav, the waving of the Lulav, is to draw down das into the nukva of Zah, into the feminine of Zah, which means into the sphere of Malchus, which is standing at the chest, the chazeh, the chest. Ein Shom. See there in Mishnas Chasidim, that's what it says. Got it now?
Absolutely.
Now it's all clear. That the shaking the Lulav is drawing down das into the feminine of Zah, which is Malchus, as it stands in the chest of Zah. That's what we're doing. So you're shaking the Lulav to the chest, because you're drawing down das to the nukva of Zah as it is in the chest.
What's the Zah? Are we going to learn?
So this is what this Maamar is going to explain, what those lines in Kabbalah mean. So to understand that, we have to understand what is das, what is nukva, and what is the chest that the nukva is in. And what does it mean to draw down das into nukva as it is in the chest? First we have to explain, what does das mean? And then we have to explain, what does it mean to draw das to nukva? It says, when David HaMelech was passing away, his last words to his son, his ethical will was, he said, Shlomo b'ni, my son Shlomo, da es Elokei avicha v'avdehu, know the God of your father and serve him. We have to understand the word da here, to know. The top of the next column. If das means what everyone thinks it means, to know something, to have knowledge, to know something, if that's what know means, shalafi das shehu lashon yidiyah. In case that the word das means yidiyah, knowing. In case hayatzarich David l'lamed es shlomo b'no yidiyah tchilah l'mamela hayodea. Then what's David HaMelech saying? He should have taught his son knowledge, and then he would know. Why is he telling his son to have knowledge? Knowledge is something you have to give, not to instruct someone to have it. So what does it mean in his final words? David turns to Shlomo and says, know God. Don't tell him to know, teach him. If you want him to know something, tell it to him. Why would he just give a command? No. As if it's something that it's only up to you to know. Shlomo, you should know, so no. Knowledge means to learn something. And to learn something means you need a teacher. It's not just up to you. He should have told him. If there's something that David wanted Shlomo, his son, to know, he should have told it to him. So what will help to tell someone to know something without first telling them the thing that they should know? It's like a teacher standing up in front of the class and saying, okay, everybody, I want you to know your times tables. End of class. What are you talking about? Teach it to us and we'll know it. If you don't teach it to us, we can't know it. So David HaMelech says to his son Shlomo, I want you to know the God of your father. Okay, so why don't you teach it to me? That's all if the word know just means know, knowing, knowledge.
Different levels of knowledge.
It must mean something more than that. Obviously, it's not just telling you can't command someone to know something. If you want someone to know something, you tell it to them. So what does it indeed mean here?
But that's the last stage of knowing. Das comes last stage. Of already you know it, but you internalize it.
Right, so the translation of das is?
To internalize it. To internalize it. To that there is God. There is God, but you have to, with each limb of your body, you have to accept that there is God. Right, so das l'kavika, know the God of your father, doesn't mean that find out that there is a God. No, he knows already there is a God. It's something that you know already. Mm-hmm. So das doesn't mean knowing. It's a mistranslation. That's right. Yeah. So l'chein tzarich lomer. We're on the 7th line down. L'chein tzarich lomer shepirush das einu lashon yidiyah levad. So we must say that das is not just knowing something. Ela kamoi. Rather, it means, like it says in the pasuk, va'adam yoda. It says that Adam knew Eve. Yes. What did that mean? It meant they connected deeply. This is not just that they met, or that he knew that she existed. It means a recognition where the intellect is aroused, excited and expressed. That you're actually, a knowledge here means not just to know as a fact, but to be connected to have a deep recognition of. Or like it says, an ox knows his owner. What does it mean that an ox knows his owner? That they're connected. They recognize, that the ox recognizes its owner. Hashem says, only you I know, of all the nations in the world, only you, the Jewish people, I know. Well, Hashem doesn't know the other nations. Doesn't know anyone else. No, knowing doesn't mean knowing. It means only you I'm connected with. I'm bound up with. All of these uses of knowledge. Adam knew Chava. An ox knows its owner. Hashem only knows the Jewish people. It doesn't mean knowing. None of them mean knowing. It means being connected to, recognizing, being bound up with. Or another example, these are psukim. Now, in Chazal, Maamar Chazal, Ein hatinuk yodei likros abba. It says in the Gemara that a child does not know
to call his parent until he starts eating grain. We learned that in the Pesach Maamar. What does it mean? The child doesn't know the father. Again, it means to recognize, to feel the connection. It's not just simple knowledge. So, let's explain this. To understand what this recognition means, which is the true definition of das, we find an interesting example of this with Avram Avinu. The word hakara, recognition, is used by Avram Avinu. Because our sages say b'medrash, ben gimel shana hikir, that when Avram Avinu was 3 years old, he recognized his creator. Hikir. What does that mean? What are we saying about Avram? That he hikir es bayra, he recognized his creator when he was 3 years old. So the Alter Rebbe has a very interesting explanation of this. Ki terach aviv avad l'shemesh v'liyareach. His father Terach worshipped the sun and the moon, worshipped idols. And Avram Avinu too, before he recognized the true creator of the world, he also served idols, the sun and the moon. But when Avram Avinu served idols, before he recognized Hashem, he did it with real deep conviction. He really meant it. His das was very deeply connected to it. Because he thought, at that stage, that the sun was the creator. And so when he worshipped the sun, he did it with passion, with deep conviction. He was inspired and moved by this awareness all day. As long as he was a sun worshipper, Avram Avinu was a serious sun worshipper. He meant it. And the entire day he was thinking about the sun god. He never forgot for a moment this awareness that the sun god is giving us life and existence.
But we're talking about a toddler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But I mean, I guess...
Just like we're talking about a 3-year-old who recognized God, we're talking about that 3-year-old who, before he recognized God, took his idolatry seriously.
But this is
and
so
he worshipped
not
the sun
Abraham we know.
with passion.
You do see toddlers who say brachas very seriously and daven very seriously.
Right. Right.
Alright.
But he didn't grow
Not
up
many who
with his
start
father.
religions, but...
He didn't grow up with his father. How did he learn that? He was raised in a cave, kind of.
It was back and forth, but...
Was it back and forth?
Yeah, yeah. But like everyone was worshipping idols, he did too.
So he learned from his father at that age. Well, 3-year-olds tend to.
Yeah.
Or he even like it says in Medrash, he searched for who is God, and he looked up and he thought the sun is
What do you mean
God.
he worshipped it? Like, it is amazing. Like, it's
He bowed down to the sun as
So he
the
bowed
creator.
down to it.
Yeah, he saw it as the creator.
Did he realize, he was 3, probably didn't realize yet that there's more, like there's
He was 3 when he
something
realized
above
that.
the sun, like there's Hashem.
When he was 3, he realized that.
Right. So before he was 3, he worshipped the sun.
Mm-hmm. But the point here is, he didn't just worship the sun like everyone else worshipped the sun. Avram, even when he was still worshipping idols, was different to other idolaters. He took it seriously. He was really bound up to it, connected with it.
Well, because he was let's say if he was in a cave, a dark cave, coming out and see the sun, to him was something extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. So it says, his thought was only occupied with this, that the sun is the God that created us and sustains us. This is what das means. Das is the opposite of forgetfulness. Forgetful comes when your das is interrupted. You become distracted from something, you forget it. when you're connected to something, when it's in front of your eyes, when you're preoccupied with something, you don't forget it. It's the opposite. When do you forget something? When your attention has been diverted. When das is shining, you can't forget. When you have an awareness of something, recognition here means to be aware. Das means awareness. When it's at the forefront of your mind, you can't forget it. So this is how Avraham Avinu worshipped the sun. But as soon as Avram recognized and realized that the sun is not a creator, it is a creation, because when he saw the sun set, he realized, okay, the sun also gets vanquished. It's not all powerful. Kediv Razal, like it says in the Medrash. And eventually he recognized that there is a true creator that is beyond creation, that is not one of the creations, but is beyond all of that. So with his original power of das that he had in his connection with idolatry, he now serves Hashem with that same power, with that same recognition and awareness. Just like when he worshipped the sun, he did it with his entire being. He never forgot about it. It was also always at the forefront of his mind. When he recognized the true creator, he did the same. And meaning he did not forget all day. His entire mind was connected with Hashem. This is what it means to have das in Hashem. That you're constantly aware of His presence. It's at the forefront of your mind at every moment. Never forget it. Now, Avram was not like Terach. Even when he worshipped his sun god, he wasn't inspired the whole day by that. He wasn't connected to his idolatry all day, Terach. He did his bit in the morning or whatever. He worshipped the sun here and there, but it wasn't a preoccupation for him. Which is why Avram was the one who found the true God, because even in his idolatry, he really meant it. Someone who's sincerely looking for God will find the true God. Somebody who is looking for a high or looking for a crutch or a bit of support here and there could settle for a false God. So that was Avram Avinu.
Rabbi, must the people that they go through a hard time and challenges and then they don't see God, does that mean that really they haven't that don't have that connection to God? They don't have that das Elokim?
It means that a hesach hadas, they've diverted their attention. They've been distracted by something.
Well, if someone has a trauma, that's pretty heavy duty. It takes
or that might connect them to Hashem.
Yeah.
That might connect them to Hashem.
Either or, yeah.
It depends on the person.
But it doesn't mean that
some people have no trauma at all and they're distracted.
Beforehand, they did have that connection, but they just got distracted. It doesn't mean that it wasn't internalized.
So they're going through a test. They're going through a trial. It's real. So says Alter Rebbe, gemura. So what this illustrates, that Avraham Avinu recognized his creator. This illustrates that even though a concept can be grasped, you can know something in one instant, but das means an extended connection with that idea, with the concept. A constant one that is not interrupted. Hua nikra hakara. That's what it means to recognize, to be connected, to be aware of something. To know something, you can know something in an instant, but then it can go in one ear, out the other. That's not das. Das means to be connected to an idea, to recognize it, to be aware of it, to the point where it is constant. It is a fixture in your mind. It stays there. V'hua nikra das. That's what das means. V'lo yediyas hamuskel bilvad. It doesn't just mean knowing a concept. It means being connected to it, being immersed in it. And now if we go back to the psukim we quoted earlier where the word das is used, we'll understand it. When we said the pasuk that says an ox knows its master, we quoted it in Haftarah last week, that an ox knows its master, but you Jewish people, you don't know Hashem. What does it mean an ox knows its master? That because the ox knows its master, so the ox is always looking to its master, it's always connected to the master. It knows that this is where my food comes from, this is who I'm looked after, this is where I have to stick around. So the ox has a constant awareness of its master, of who its boss is. And it's always looking for guidance from the master. So it's not just knowing a fact, it has a piece of trivia, I know who my master is. It's a constant awareness of its master. The ox's very identity is that I am the master's ox. And therefore, when the master tells me to go there, I go there. That's what the word das in that pasuk means. Also, when it says that the child knows, recognizes its parent, what does that mean? That a child reaches a certain point where the child has a constant awareness of who its parents are, and therefore is connected to them and dependent on them and looking to them. So it doesn't mean a fact that hit their mind and is stored somewhere in the background. That's not das. Das is a reality that is at the forefront of the mind constantly. This is who I am. It's a part of my identity. Before a child has this awareness, so then their mind is not moved by the fact. The fact might be they know who their parent is, but they're not moved by it. It doesn't affect them so much. All I can say is about Adam knew Chava. Again, here it means a very deep connection and bond. And that connection is only possible when there's awareness. When the connection between Adam and Chava was one that was deep in the mind. So, just like all of these examples of where the word das is used, it means to be deeply connected and aware of something. So too, when it uses the word das in relation to elikus, to godliness, it doesn't just mean knowing that there is God. It means an awareness, a recognition, a connection. You're inspired by that awareness. It moves you, it drives you. It's your driving force. To the point where it's constantly there. It's a constant connection. So with this understanding, when we go back to what David told Shlomo Melech, when he says, know the God of your father, he's not just telling him know something, which you can't tell someone to know something, you have to tell them what it is. You can't instruct someone to know, you have to teach them. But no, what was David saying to his son? He was instructing his son that your recognition of Hashem should be one that is constant. You should be moved by it, it should be your inspiration. Even though the seichel is just one thing, that Hashem is the creator. That's the idea, that Hashem created the world and he maintains it from nothing to something. That's the concept. But do you know that? You know it says it in the book. But is that das? It's not das unless you are constantly aware of it. It's just the way you look at reality. So it's not just a fact that you learnt, a piece of information that you memorized. It's something that is your reality, the way you look at it. That's what he was telling his son. David was telling Shlomo, Da es al kavicha, that make Hashem your true reality, your constant awareness.
Do you need to be more of an emotional person? Because there can be two types of people. Someone who's less emotional and studies everything, like Hasidus, all about God and everything, but it's all intellectual for them. Like they don't take it to their heart. They don't feel a connection. And it could be someone who's really emotional and takes everything to heart and feels such a connection, uplifting, and could affect their whole life. So
Right.
what,
So
like,
both of them could be lacking das. Somebody who is very intellectual but sees things as information, as an idea, is lacking das.
right.
Because das means the idea becoming a reality for
So
you.
how does that type of person become?
So you have to work on
Das.
das, which means taking it personally, putting yourself in the picture that you're learning, drawing down the idea and allowing it to be absorbed. An intellectual person might enjoy a lot of ideas and see it as an idea. Similar to, like it says, that the famous saying that a rabbi will never do tshuva, because then anytime he hears an inspiring idea, he thinks, okay, that's going to be my next sermon. Never takes it personally. It's not for me, it's for my next sermon. So he hears a very moving, inspiring idea. He says, oh, now I've got my Rosh Hashanah drasha. 1 second, it was talking to you as well. So an intellectual person can also be like that. Oh, that's a nice idea. It's not an idea. It's a thing to live by. It's something that you have to take personally. So an intellectual person has to be careful to draw it down and to live with it. A very emotional person also could be lacking das, because a very emotional person sometimes doesn't wait until the idea is actually understood to be moved by it. So they're very inspired and wow, did you get it? Actually, did you understand what we're just talking about? You're already reacting to it. Did you allow it to sink in, to get clear what we're talking about?
Properly.
Yeah. So that also requires das.
Right.
Das means to slow down the emotion and to sit on this idea for a bit. Emotion is like being moved by it, but then you need another thing to inspire you, like, because that one already had its effect. But 1 second, did you actually get it? Did you allow it to sink in fully? And so that could also be a lack of das.
I see. You need a middle line.
Right, which again, that's why we daven for das in the Shemona Esrei.
Yeah.
We mentioned Chacham in das, but we say the bracha Chayin in das, because that's the most elusive one. If we're the intellectual type or we're the emotional type, we both need to work on das. The intellectual person needs to work on taking it personally and making it real, not an idea. The emotional person has to work on slowing it down and actually absorbing this before you run to the next thing. Which he'll go into a bit later in this Maamar. So, Ubezek Kvar, we're on the 5th last line of the page. Ubezek Kvar Maturitz Kushya Hanal. So we've already answered the question that we said earlier. Lama Amr Lashon Sivui. Why did David HaMelech say to Shlomo Melech as a command, know God? You can't command someone to know something. You can teach it to them. Don't tell them to know it. No, we've answered that. We said, why didn't he teach him the knowledge? Why did he tell him to have knowledge instead of teaching it to him? No. Because we've explained that das here means to take an idea and to be moved by it, to internalize it. This you have to command someone to do, not teach them to do. I can't teach you. I can only tell you to. You have to do it. I can't make an idea real for you. I can explain it to you so you can understand it. I can give you examples and metaphors, and I can give you the concept so you can know it in the simple, literal sense of knowing. But for you to take it seriously, for you to internalize it and make it real and make it your guiding light in your life, I can't do that. That you have to do. So David couldn't teach Shlomo das, he could only tell him to have das. He can teach him the information, but to make it real, that's up to you. So a parent can give the information to a child, can model to a child, this is what we do, this is what it means, can share their own inspiration with a child, but for the child to actually internalize it, that's the next generation, that's their avodah.
And commanding is the way to get that message across?
Well, here, this was David HaMelech's dying words to his son. This was not his kindergarten class. And a child, a little child, actually can't have. We'll see later. Doesn't have das in the first place. So their job is not to internalize. Their job is just to absorb the information and see a role model. The das will come later.
So we could only be role models, really, to our children.
Correct.
Because you
Little
can't,
children.
but also like older children, no?
You can't
Like-
tell them what to
like-
feel. But you have to feel it. If you're feeling it, if you're inspired by it, so then they see a model of a person inspired, and then when they grow older and they're able to have that, they have something to follow.
When does the dose come in?
Bas mitzvah, bar mitzvah.
But when Shlomo HaMelech asked Hashem, he asked for das, no?
Yeah, we all have to ask for help with it.
Yeah,
We
like
should
the
be-
only thing that he asked was the das.
Mhm.
Das.
Yeah. But he has to ask.
Yeah.
So therefore, when we are warned, bottom line, Hishamar pen tishkach, that the Torah says, be careful lest you forget. Be careful not to forget Hashem. Don't forget what Hashem has done for you. Don't lose the awareness of Hashem. So inyan echad mamish in Tzivi v'azhara on page the das elokhi. It's the exact same thing. To say don't forget is the exact same thing as saying know Hashem. Because like we said earlier, you only forget something when your attention is diverted from it. That the mind is not focusing and being expressed on this thing, you forget it. If you're not giving it your attention, it drops out of your mind. So because you have to know, if you know, you won't forget. Meaning know, if you have an awareness, a connection, a recognition, if the idea is at the forefront of your mind, you won't forget. And so too, if you're careful not to forget, don't let your mind be distracted, you will know. So there are two sides of one coin. There's the warning, do not forget Hashem. There's the encouragement to know Hashem. It's really two sides of the same thing. As long as you don't forget, you'll know. As long as you know, you won't forget. If you don't get distracted, you are fulfilling the mitzvah of knowing. It's just, one of them is a positive command. Like it says, you should know today that Hashem is God. You've been shown to know. Many other psukim that talk about knowing Hashem. That's the positive commandment, mitzvah. But shikha he lo isase. The chol hishamar pen, the shikha to not forget is a negative commandment of not forgetting. There's a positive mitzvah and a negative mitzvah that are both trying to create the same thing. But really they're the same idea. We can show proof of this. That when somebody lacks das, so then an intellectual inspiration gets lost easily. When you lack das, you can be inspired by an idea, but it is fleeting. It falls away. The light, the energy of the idea doesn't have consistency. It's not maintained. Now he gives an example, which I don't understand. K'may noshim shedatim kalus. Like it says in the Gemara that women have light das.
Light das.
Yeah. I know what that means. Anyone understand that?
Maybe in the olden days.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Before he was saying you can have a person who who their das is lightweight. Lightweight means easily swayed. So that would mean somebody whose mood swings a lot. A very moody person. What changed? Their awareness, their connection is not constant, is not predictable. It swings and changes very quickly. So they're more fickle, less decided, less decisive. They don't stick to one topic, to one subject. They're doing many things at once.
They're all over the place.
Yeah. That's a person like that. So he seems to be saying not that women have a dat and kalas, that femininity is where emotion is dominant and less directed by das. So therefore, it's not going to be as steady or as predictable or as constant. There are some women with a very strong das. There are some men with a very weak das. But femininity is where das is light. That's different to a child. A child is where there's no das. And that's what he says next. So, Noshin Dat and Kalas means you hefsek koich ha-seichel ispatos l'davar ha-menagi l'seichel. To have light das means that the seichel does not determine the emotion so strongly, so you're easily swayed to a different emotion. And the mood can change quite quickly. Even to something that's opposite, that's illogical, that's irrational. V'chen k'tanim nochem ispatos miyad. Children can change their mood instantaneously. Because they have no das at all. So it's totally irrational and illogical. It makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to why the kid is screaming and crying one moment, and then suddenly it's forgotten. They were really happy, and then suddenly they're terribly upset, and then it's all over, and they're best friends again. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no, you try and rationalize and give logic to them, and that's important. Parents have to, again, model what it means to have rational, directed emotions.